Seattle's facing severe police staffing shortages tonight in the wake of the sidelining of more than 100 officers, courtesy of the city's vaccine mandate. And residents aren't really hearing too much about the problem from local media or the city, which was already short hundreds of officers from being fully staffed. Let's bring in the journalist who keeps breaking these stories and other important issues in the Pacific Northwest. KTTH talk radio host Jason Rantz. Jason, always great to have you with us. You are reporting that every day there are emails going out asking for volunteers to cover patrol shifts. What'd you find?
Yeah, every single shift in every single precinct in the city of Seattle is now borrowing officers from non-patrol units so that they can actually have enough cops to respond to 911 calls. So they're basically saying, hey, general investigation detective, we need your help. Could you step up? And they say yes, which of course is good for public safety in the short term. But obviously when you're pulling a detective off of their normal shift, it means they're not working to crack cases that they're already overworked on. I mean, they are getting hit with so many cases and they can barely keep up. So this is obviously causing a problem. And just to give you a sense of how bad it is, even in the future, they still say the third watch in just the West Precinct, and this is the one that oversees the neighborhoods of Seattle that frankly have the most shootings and most homelessness. They're short-staffed every day for the month of November, and there's no sign that things are going to get better.
Wow. I mean, you were warning about this, and there was, talk about what would happen if they couldn't come to some accommodations with some of these officers, and this is now the reality. Okay. Second story in our lightning round. This has to do with a city councilwoman who apparently was asked by police to help out with a murder investigation, and they said she was less than enthusiastic. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so it's Spokane City Council member Betsy Wilkerson. There was an execution-style murder that was very close to one of a business that she runs, and an officer comes up and talks to her over the phone. It's all caught on body camera.
Yeah, and if you want to wait just 1 second, we'll play a little bit of that, and you can explain us what this conversation was about.
So I don't know how willing Betsy is going to be. Betsy said, I'm not really too enthused to help you, but she said that? Yeah.
Okay, what was that all about?
Yeah, so apparently she wasn't very enthusiastic about sending over her surveillance video. She's running for re-election right now, and I went to her website and she's touting all about the fact she's about collaboration and trust and respect, except apparently when it comes to cops. I mean, it's certainly possible there was some context to a comment that I think most reasonable people would say, well, that's shocking. It's an execution-style murder. Wouldn't you want to actually help solve it? If there's context, she's not willing to provide it because I've asked several times, many phone calls and emails. She has not responded to any of them, although I'm told her office ended up sending an angry email to the chief of police about how this somehow got out. So she's a little angry.
Yeah, and by the way, this was an execution-style murder, you said. This was a mother. She was waiting to pick up her children. Yeah. I mean, this is a case you think any person of goodwill in that community would want to help out. So please keep us updated on that. Now, also, we have this issue of anarchy reigning in Portland. That's the headline. The Daily Signal says the problem is the politicians who govern the state and local officials who have intentionally tied the hands of law enforcement. They are the reason why it's impossible to stop criminals and mobs from doing what they wish to the city. And we may not be hearing about it every day. You probably are, and you're reporting on it, but this is still happening on a regular basis there.
Absolutely. It's clearly not happening as much as it was last year, but it still happens. And thanks to Democrats passing over a dozen so-called police reform bills, they actually have made it worse for residents. House Bill 2928 is the one that a lot of people are paying attention to. It stops officers from using non-lethal tools for crowd control. So they can't use tear gas or rubber bullets except under very specific circumstances. But what we saw on October 12th was a group of Antifa thugs gathering at a park, tagging buildings with the message, kill cops, riots work. And then they spent about 10 minutes destroying basically whatever property that they could. But cops were unable to intervene because of this particular law. I've got an editorial up right now at foxnews.com that sort of gets into the language of these bills and why it's actually stopping police.
We will check it out along with all of your other work, which half the time when I see your headlines, I'm like, is this Babylon Bee? No, it's another story that Jason Rantz is breaking for us. Thank you, Jason. Always good to see you.
Thanks, Shannon.
And some good news before.